Bonjour, French 2 students. Here is your teaching video for Lesson 16, Parts A and B, pages 226 to 231 in your textbook. S'il vous plaît, ouvrez vos livres à la page 226. Lesson says, Mes voisins. If you would follow along as I read. Bonjour, je m'appelle Frédéric Mallet. J'habite à Paris avec ma famille. Nous habitons dans un immeuble de 6 étages. Voici mon immeuble et voici mes voisins. Monsieur Lacroche habite au 6e étage avec sa femme. Ils sont musiciens. Lui, il joue du piano et elle chante. Oh là là, quelle musique! Mademoiselle Joliette habite au 5e étage avec son oncle et sa tante. Paul, mon meilleur ami, habite au 4e étage avec sa sœur et ses parents. Mademoiselle Ménard habite au 3e étage avec son chien, Pomme, ses 2 chats, Fritz et Arthur, son perroquet, Coco, et son canari, Frou-Frou. Je pense que c'est une personne très intéressante, mais mon père pense qu'elle est un peu bizarre. Monsieur et Madame Boutin habitent au 2e étage avec leur fils et leurs 2 filles. Et qui habite au 1er étage? C'est un garçon super intelligent, super cool et très sympathique. Et ce garçon, c'est moi. So now, again, I'd like you to work on translating it. So again, follow along as I do some translation. So the title is My Neighbors. Hello, my name is Frédéric Mallet. I live in Paris with my family. We live in an apartment building of 6 stories. Here is my apartment building, and here are my neighbors. Mr. Lacroche lives on the 6th floor with his wife. They are musicians. Him, he plays the piano, and her, she sings. Oh my, what music. Mademoiselle Joliette lives on the 5th floor with her uncle and her aunt. Paul, my best friend, lives on the 4th floor with his sister and his parents. Miss Menard lives on the 3rd floor with her dog, Apple, her 2 cats, Fritz and Arthur, and her parrot, Coco, and her canary, Frou-Frou. I think that she's a very interesting person, but my father thinks that she is a little bizarre. Mr. and Mrs. Boutin live on the 2nd floor with their son and their 2 daughters. And who lives on the 1st floor? It's a super intelligent, super cool boy who is very nice. And this boy? It's me. All right, taking a look at the comprehension questions. Number 1, we have Où habite Frédéric Mallet? Il habite à Paris. 2. Combien d'étages a son immeuble? Son immeuble a 6 étages. 3. Qui habite à chaque étage? Les Lacroche habitent au 6e étage. Mademoiselle Joliette, son oncle et sa tante habitent au 5e étage. Paul et sa famille habitent au 4e étage. Mademoiselle Menard et ses animaux habitent au 3e étage. Les Boutins habitent au 2e étage. Frédéric Mallet habite au 1er étage. 4. Quelle est la profession des Lacroche? Ils sont musiciens. 5. Selon toi, Est-ce que Mademoiselle Menard est une personne bizarre ou intéressante? Pourquoi? Right, that question's asking, in your opinion, is Miss Menard an interesting person or a bizarre person, and why? So that one's up to you. Looking at the comparison culturel. The floors of buildings are numbered differently in France and in the United States. Compare. The rez-de-chaussée is what here in the United States we would call the ground floor or the first floor. What in France they call the premier étage is what we would call in English the second floor. And the deuxième étage in English would be the third floor. So basically, they call the first floor the second floor, and then it kind of continues from there. Note, in the older downtown areas of French cities, apartment houses have a maximum of 6 stories. This is because until the 20th century, there were no elevators and people had to use the stairs. So 6 stories, which by our standards would be a 7-story, right? That was kind of the extent to which people would actually climb stairs. So imagine, right, before elevators, that if people lived on the top floor of the apartment, that also meant that they had to take all of their furniture up there when they moved in, and they also had to carry all their groceries and such up there every time they go grocery shopping. Look at the note culturel, les animaux domestiques en France. Again, follow along as I read, please. La France a une population de 60 millions d'habitants et de 42 millions d'animaux domestiques. Les Français adorent les animaux. Une famille sur 2 a un animal domestique. Par ordre de préférence, les principaux animaux domestiques sont les chiens, 39%, les chats, 35%, les poissons, 12%, les oiseaux, 5%, et les hamsters, 4%. Il y a aussi un certain nombre de serpents, de tortues, et de lapins. So again, your cultural notes have switched over to French. Remember, some of this information shows up on your unit tests as culture questions. So again, you should be able to translate the words that they think that you don't know, have the little circles around them, and are down at the bottom. So, kind of working and paying attention here as I translate for you. This is about, the title is Domestic Animals in France, or Pets in France. France has a population of 60 million people and of 42 million pets. The French love animals. One family in 2, so 1 out of 2 families, has a pet. In order of preference, the main pets are dogs, 39%, cats, 35%, fish, 12%, birds, 5%, and hamsters, 4%. There are also a certain number of snakes, tortoises or turtles, and rabbits. So basically they're saying it's pretty similar to the United States. French people definitely do like to have pets, and they tend to like the same kinds of pets as we do here in the United States. S'il vous plaît, tournez la page. A. La possession avec deux. Note the words in heavy print. Voici une moto, c'est la moto de Frédéric. Voici un vélo, c'est le vélo de Sophie. To express possession, French speakers use the construction le, la, les, plus noun, plus de, plus owner. And if that owner starts with a vowel or a silent H, we do the D apostrophe. So what you'll see here is in English, right, to show ownership or possession, we use apostrophe S or S apostrophe, okay? In French, there is no apostrophe S or S apostrophe. Instead, they use this construction, okay, of our definite article, the noun, the de, and then the owner. And notice it's kind of opposite the order that we say in English, right? Because the translations up there say it's Frederick's motorcycle, but in French you're saying it's the motorcycle of Frederick. It's Sophie's bike. It's the bike of Sophie. Okay? So, s'il vous plaît, répétez la radio de Thomas, les livres de Claire, la maison d'Émile. So that would be Thomas's radio, Claire's books, Emily's house. The same construction is used to express relationship. C'est le copain de Danielle. C'est la mère de Paul. Remember that de contracts with le and les. Où est le chat du voisin? C'est la chambre des enfants. So again, what they're reminding you about is those de contractions. And while English often indicates possession with an apostrophe S, French always uses de. La copine de Monique. So again, we're talking about ownership here. And how in French you show ownership. So, taking a look at exercise number 1 that we're going to do out loud. It says, imagine that you are hosting a party in France. Introduce the following people. So look at our example prompt. We have Jean-Paul, Cousin, and Sylvie. So we want to say that Jean-Paul is Sylvie's cousin. So it becomes Jean-Paul est le cousin de Sylvie. Okay, so the parts of this that are going to stay the same every time is the A. It's going to be the only part that stays the same. The rest of it is going to change. Okay, sometimes this is going to be le. Remember, this is le because cousin here is masculine. Right, so if our word is masculine, we're going to use le. If our word is feminine, we're going to use la there. So again, for each of these, I'm going to say the number. I'd like you at home and you listening to this video to say the sentence to yourself out loud in French, and then I will say it so that you can check and see that you've done it correctly. So number 1, our prompt is Carol, Cousine, and Jacques. Carol est la cousine de Jacques. De Michel, copain, Caroline. Michel est le copain de Caroline. 3. Philippe, camarade Charles. Philippe est le camarade de Charles. 4. Robert, frère Guillaume. Robert est le frère de Guillaume. 5. Marina, copine Paul. Marina est la copine de Paul. 6. Pauline, amie Eric. Pauline est l'amie d'Eric. And 7. Alice, sœur and Karine. Alice est la sœur de Karine. Remember, you always can pause those and give yourself a little extra time if you need it. All right, next in your book you see a box of vocabulary, Vocabulaire la Famille. Remember, before you take your quiz over this lesson, you'll have to know the meaning and the spelling of this vocabulary. For the most part, this vocabulary is actually a review. You've been introduced to this vocabulary before. S'il vous plaît, répétez la famille. La famille. Les grands-parents. Les grands-parents. Le grand-père, le grand-père, la grand-mère, la grand-mère, les parents, le père, le père, la mère, la mère, le marié, le marié, la femme, les enfants, un enfant, un enfant, un enfant, un enfant, le frère, la sœur, le fils, la fille, les parents, l'oncle, la tante, le cousin, la cousine. So remember, in this box of vocabulary, they're using those definite articles. Remember the definite articles being the. Okay, and so remember with the definite articles we have masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. So the masculine singular is le, the feminine singular is la, and the plurals are both les. Okay. Now, remember, we only use one article at a time, but you could use the indefinite articles instead. Those mean a, an, or some in the plural. And again, they have a masculine and a feminine form, singular and plural. The masculine singular is un, and the feminine singular is une. And the plural are day and day. Now you only use one or the other at a time, okay? And remember, that's telling you the genders of the nouns. A couple things to be careful about. Notice here with grands-parents, right, there's an S on the grand and an S on the parent, both, okay, when it's plural. Le grand-père is grandfather, in case you weren't sure, and la grand-mère is grandmother. Le père is father, and la mère is mother. Un enfant is a child. Un enfant is a female child. Le frère is brother, and la sœur is sister. L'oncle, right? This is because oncle starts with a vowel, so the le and the la, remember the le and the la here, both become L apostrophe before a vowel or a silent H. So that's what's happening there with oncle, because oncle starts with a vowel, it's L apostrophe, so that's uncle. Le cousin, a male cousin, and la cousine, a female cousin. So again, this is all vocabulary that you'll need to know the meaning of and spelling of before you take your lesson quiz. So let's take a look at exercise 3, La famille de Frédéric. Frédéric has drawn his family tree. Study it and explain the relationships between the people below. So one of the things that your book does assume is that you know how to read a family tree. So for the most part, this is Frederick's family tree, who is right here. So I'll kind of go over in English who these people are to Frederick, right? To Frederick, Leah is his sister. Eric is his cousin, and so is Elodie, right? These are both cousins. Martine is his mom. Jean is his dad. Now, Alice is his aunt. And Maurice is his uncle. And then up here, Julie is his grandma. And Albert is his grandpa. Okay, so your book does assume that you know how to read a family tree. Okay, so taking a look at these, we have Eric and Alice Vidal. Okay, so we want to say who is Eric, right? So Eric is right here. We want to say who is Eric to Alice, who's right here. So Eric is Alice's son. So we have Eric est le fils d'Alice Vital. So this exercise is using this new vocabulary for the family and saying the relationships between these people. Okay, so you have to kind of find them on the family tree and figure out who they would be. So again, I'd like you to do this one out loud at home or as you're watching the video right now. And say them out loud in French, and then you'll hear me give you the confirmation. So number 1, we have Leah and Frédéric. Leah est la sœur de Frédéric. 2. Martine, Malay, and Leah. Martine Malay est la mère de Leah. 3. Albert et Julie Malay and Eric. Albert et Julie Malay sont les grands-parents d'Eric. 4. Alice Vidal et Frédéric. Alice Vidal est la tante de Frédéric. 5. Jean Malay and Martine Malay. Jean Malay est le marié de Martine Malay. 6. Alice Vidal and Maurice Vidal. Alice Vidal est la femme de Maurice Vidal. 7. Julie Malay and Eric. Julie Malay est la grand-mère d'Eric. 8. Elodie, Maurice Vidal. Elodie est la fille de Maurice Vidal. 9. Leah, Eric. Leah est la cousine d'Eric. 10. Frédéric, Elodie. Frédéric est le cousin d'Elodie. Part B. B. Les adjectifs possessifs mon, ton, son. Learning about language. French, like English, shows possession and relationship with possessive adjectives. Ma voiture, mon père. In French, possessive adjectives agree with the nouns they introduce. So again, that's because, remember, in French, all nouns are either masculine or feminine. So that's why we have to have that agreement. Note the forms of the possessive adjectives in the chart below. So looking at this chart, this possessor, this is kind of what your subject of your sentence is. This is who owns it. Okay. These are what these mean. Okay. So if possessor je, which means I, right? Tu means you. Il means he. And elle means she. Right? So if I own something, it's my. If you own something, it's your. If he owns something, it's his. And if she owns something, it's her. Okay? Now notice for my, there's 3 different forms, right? There's a mon, there's a ma, there's a may. Now, it doesn't depend on what gender the person is who owns it. What it depends upon is the gender of the noun itself. So because frère is masculine, it's mon frère. Even if I, a girl, am talking about my brother, because the word brother's masculine, I have to say mon frère. Here, because sir is feminine, it's ma. Okay, so even if you are a boy, if you're talking about my sister, you have to say ma sœur, because the word sœur in French is feminine. And for the plural here, right, copain is plural, so if I want to say my friends, it's mes. Okay, and that's true for all of these here, right? This choice here depends on the gender of the noun. Not the gender of the person who owns it. So, s'il vous plaît, répétez je, monde, ma, mes, tu, ton, ta, tes, ils, son, sa, ses, elle, son, sa, ses. So, when you're choosing possessive adjectives in French, the choice actually requires 2 steps. Okay? Step number 1. Who owns the item? Right? Or who does it belong to? Okay? And that's giving you which row to choose from. The second step is now you look at the noun, okay, that is owned. So again, you're going to look at that noun that is owned. Is that noun, or you're going to figure out what gender and number is that noun. Okay. So, again, that little chart, right, was we had je, and then mon, ma, mes. We had tu and ton, ta, tes. We had il and son, sa, ses. And we had elle and son, sa, ses. Right? And this was the masculine singular. This was the feminine singular. And this was the plural, and it didn't matter if it was masculine or feminine. So for example, if I want to say my cats, my first step is, who owns this? Well, it's my, so it's I. Okay, so that means I'm going to choose from this row. right? And I'm not choosing je, that's just who owns it. So I'm choosing either mon, ma, or me to say my. Now, which one? And you did it in French, hey? Oh, well. So I have my cats, which is chat, right? So now my second step is, now chat, what about this word here? I need to know what gender it is and what number it is. Well, when you learn the word chat, its vocabulary, it was un chat. Remember, un tells us that the noun is masculine. And the fact that this is chat with an S on it means it's plural. So to say my cats, I'm going to say mes chats. Right? What if I want to say his car? Still 2 steps. Okay? I'm going to do this one in a different color. Okay? His car. So the his, right? That means it's this. So I'm going to be choosing from son, sa, or say. Now, the word car in French is voiture. And it's une voiture, which tells me that voiture is feminine. And it's also singular here. So I need to choose the feminine singular possessive adjective, which is sa. What if I want to say her car? Her, right? Step number 1, who owns the item? Who does it belong to? Her means I'm going to choose from son, sa, or say. Okay. Again, the word for voiture is car is voiture. So here's voiture, and again, it is feminine, and it's singular here. So the feminine singular form is sa. So I'm going to say sa voiture. So notice, if you encounter sa voiture and you're translating, you have to pay attention because sa voiture might mean his car. Sa voiture might mean her car. You're going to have to look at the sentence or the paragraph as a whole to determine whether sa here is meaning his or if sa is meaning her. So, 2 steps to choose the correct possessive adjective. The who owns it, that's telling you which row you're going to choose from. And then to make the decision of which one of those 3 choices to choose from, you have to look at the gender and number of the noun you're describing. It doesn't depend upon the person, it depends upon the noun itself. So the feminine singular forms ma, ta, and sa become mon, ton, and son before a vowel sound. Again, that's for pronunciation reasons. The French don't say 2 vowels together very well. So if I have un ami, which is a female friend, it's mon ami, ton ami, son ami. Again, I still know that the friend is female because ami ends in an e. Okay, so I still can tell that that's a female friend. Un auto, monoto, tonoto, sonoto, because auto starts with a vowel. There is liaison after mon, ton, son, me, te, say before a vowel sound. So mon oncle, mes amis. So all they're saying is that you hear those last letters. In the case of the N, it sounds like an N, but in the case of the S, this is going to sound like a Z sound. Okay? The choice between son, sa, and say depends on the gender, masculine or feminine, and the number, singular or plural, of the noun that follows it. So that's what we were just talking about over here, right? Is it doesn't depend on the gender of the owner. It does not depend on the gender of the possessor. That is whether the owner is male or female. Compare. Voici Frédéric, voici son vélo, voici sa radio, voici ses livres. Voici Sophie, voici son vélo, voici sa radio, voici ses livres. So again, how do we know whether we should say his or her there? It's based on kind of what we see in the sentence or the paragraph around it to know whether we're talking about a male or a female person. Because the word bike is always masculine and singular here, so I'm always going to use son. Here, radio is feminine and singular, so I'm always going to use sa. And here, livre is plural, so I'm always going to use se. So it depends upon the noun, not the person who owns it. So again, we're going to do a couple activities with these. Exercise 4, Marc et Elan. Marc never knows where his things are, but Elan does. Play both roles. So again, I'm going to give you a chance to repeat after me. I'd like you to do repeat before me. I'd like you to do both activities. So look at our prompt. We have le vélo est dans le garage. So we have où est mon vélo? Ton vélo, il est dans le garage. So what part of this is going to stay the same every time? The où est and the il est. Okay. The mon and the ton, right? That's because that was le vélo. So when I have a le, I'm going to use a mon and a ton. If I have a la, I'm going to use a ma and a ta. Okay. And then the dans le garage was because this was dans le garage. So number 1, we have les CD and ici. Où sont mes CD? Tes CD, ils sont ici. 2, la raquette and là-bas. Où est ma raquette? Ta raquette, elle est là-bas. Toi, la montre and sur toi. Où est ma montre? Ta montre, elle est sur toi. 4, les livres dans le sac. Où sont mes livres? Tes livres, ils sont dans le sac. 5, le portable sur le bureau. Où est mon portable? Ton portable, il est sur le bureau. 6, le chat derrière la porte. Où est mon chat? Ton chat, il est derrière la porte. 7, l'appareil photo dans la chambre. Où est mon appareil photo? Ton appareil photo, il est dans la chambre. 8, le baladeur sur la table. Où est mon baladeur? Ton baladeur, il est sur la table. Exercise 5, invitation. Say whom each person is inviting to the school party using the appropriate possessive adjectives. So we have Michel and la copine. So we have Michel invite sa copine. Again, the part of this that's going to stay the same every time is the invite. And that's going to stay the same because notice that this is always one person that owns it. And we're given the person's first name. So we're always going to be choosing, right? This is either going to be the his or the her. So we're always going to be choosing from son, sa, or say for my adjectives here, my possessive adjectives. So what they give me starts my sentence, okay, invite, and then again, this is la, so it becomes sa. So again, you should do these out loud. Number 1, we have André and la cousine. André invite sa cousine. 2, Jean-Claude and la sœur. Jean-Claude invite sa sœur. 3, Marie-Noël and les frères. Marie-Noël invite ses frères. 4, Pascal, l'ami Sophie. Pascal invite son ami Sophie. Again, this one is son, because ami, although it's feminine, starts with a vowel. 5. Monique les cousins. Monique invite ses cousins. 6. Nathalie l'ami Marc. Nathalie invite son ami Marc. 7. Georges l'ami Cécile. Georges invite son ami Cécile. Same thing again, even though ami is feminine, sorry. We use son because ami starts with a vowel. And 8. Paul and l'ami Thérèse. Paul invite son ami Thérèse. Exercice 6. Chez Marie et Christophe Boutin. Items 1 through 8 belong to Marie. Items 9 through 16 belong to Christophe. Point these things out. So again, because it's il or elle who owns it every time, we're choosing from son, sa, or say each time. Remember, here it doesn't matter that Marie's a girl or that Christophe's a boy. To make this choice, I have to look at the noun. And is that noun masculine or feminine? Singular or plural? Okay, so number 1, le baladeur, c'est son baladeur. 2, le sac, c'est son sac. 3, le chien, c'est son chien. 4, l'album, c'est son album. 5, l'ordinateur, c'est son ordinateur. 6, la guitare, c'est sa guitare. 7, les CD. Now be careful because this one is plural, right? We start our sentences with say if we're using son or sa. But if it's plural, we're going to start our sentence with ce sont and then say. So numéro 7 is ce sont ces CD. Oui, les cassettes. Ce sont ces cassettes. 9, la guitare. C'est sa guitare. 10, la chaîne hi-fi. C'est sa chaîne hi-fi. 11, le chat. C'est son chat. 12, le scooter. C'est son scooter. 13, les livres. Ce sont ses livres. 14, la montre. C'est sa montre. 15, les photos. Ce sont ses photos. 16, les skis. Ce sont ses skis. All right, we have a vocabulaire expression pour la conversation, how to question a statement or express a doubt. S'il vous plaît, répétez, tu es sûr. Tu es sûr. Why do you think we have this E here? Because if we're talking to a girl, this has to be feminine, right? So that's to allow you to do feminine. So, s'il vous plaît, répétez, c'est mon pantalon. Tu es sûr? All right, that brings us to what you have to do for your homework. Exercise 3, La Famille de Frédéric. Again, we're doing this as a writing one, so you will write out answers. Frederic has drawn his family tree, studied and explained the relationships between the people below. We did this one out loud. You're going to write out those answers. Remember, the part of this that's staying the same every time is the A. Okay. For the most part, because that's singular. Be careful on this one because these guys are plural, so my verb will be sont instead. And you're saying the relationship between these people using that new vocabulary of people. So, for example, number 1 is going to be what you'd write on your paper is Leah, la sœur de Frédéric. Okay, so you're writing out those sentences like this red example for the 10 of them. For exercise 5, invitation, say whom each person is inviting to the school party using the appropriate possessive adjectives. Remember, these are all one person's names, so you're always going to be choosing from son, sa, or say. That choice, then always remember, depends upon what they've given you in the prompt. The invite's going to stay the same. Again, we did this one out loud. So for number 1, you would write Andre, or you could write il if you'd like to save yourself a little bit of time. Invite sa cuisine. Because the word cuisine is feminine and singular, I have to use sa. Okay, so you're writing out those sentences. Au revoir, à demain.